From creative differences to a poor audience response. This is the real reason Henry Cavill was removed from The Witcher. Season 3 of Netflix The Witcher just dropped. Well, the first half of it did anyway. And there is an incredibly bittersweet vibe in the air because fans know that Henry Cavill's time as Geralt of Rivia has come to an end. Today, we will be diving into the intriguing story behind Henry Cavill's departure from the hit series. There are a lot of rumors swirling around at the moment about Henry's exit, and honestly, there is a lot going on behind the scenes. So grab yourself a bottle of Blizzard and cast your Quen sign. You're going to need to brace yourself for this. Henry is known for being a huge nerd. Yeah, don't let those bulging muscles and that chiseled jawline fool you. The guy loves his games. He was introduced to PC gaming as a child and has since been building and maintaining his own gaming computer. Henry's love of games extended to the point that he actually missed the phone call from Zack Snyder, telling him he had been cast as Superman because he was busy playing World of Warcraft. In fact, Henry credits his experience playing the Witcher video game series with motivating him to seek out the role of Geralt. The Witcher series of games have been enormously popular over the years, and like many other fans, playing them drove Henry to read the original books. From there, Henry became a huge fan of the series and was clearly passionate about doing the series justice. Unfortunately for Henry, though, his love of the source material was not really shared by the higher-ups on the series' creative team. Yeah, as it turns out, none of the writers hired for the series were particularly familiar with the source material before they started working on the project. I mean, it should be pretty self-evident why that's not a good thing, right? A former writer on the series, Bo DeMeo, revealed in an interview that other writers on the show actually mocked the source material and, get this, aren't even fans. Why the heck were these people brought on? My general rule was you had to be a fan, no questions. I've been on show, namely Witcher, where some of the writers were not or actively disliked the books and games, even actively mocking the source material. It's a recipe for disaster and bad morale. Fandom as a litmus test checks egos and makes all the long nights worth it. You have to respect the work before you're allowed to add to its legacy. Allegedly, there was a lot of creative disagreement between Henry and the series' showrunner Lauren Schmidt Hissrich. Henry wanted to keep Geralt as close as possible to the books, but Lauren wanted to go in a different direction. Henry had already hinted at these problems where he did an interview discussing Season 2. I wanted to try and bring as much of the book's Geralt into Season 2 as possible. And as much as the vision, the plot and storylines would allow. The toughest part for me was finding that balance between the showrunner's vision and my love for the books, and trying to bring that Geralt to the showrunner's vision. It's about treading a fine line there. It's the showrunner's story, and so it's an adaptation. The tricky bit for me was finding Geralt from the book's place within that and being able to serve both as much as I could. Reading between the lines, especially now that Henry has left the show, it's pretty clear that he is frustrated with the showrunner's vision of the character.
My final season, and I actually just want to talk about my co-stars here because, once again, it was such a pleasure and an honor to be working with you guys. You guys bring so much nuance.
Henry feels that the writers dumbed Geralt down, making him less thoughtful and wise. When discussing his view of Geralt, Henry said, "I'm sure you know in the books, Geralt is an amateur philosopher. He's an intellectual. He's wise and thoughtful. Yes, he's at times morose, morbid, and snarky. But it's important for me to have the character be three-dimensional." Yeah, it's clear that Henry's idea of Geralt doesn't really gel with Lauren's. Henry expressed how tricky it was for him to try and bring his faithful depiction of Geralt and make it work with Lauren's vision for the show. Honestly, I can't imagine something more painful for an actor and a fan of the series. It really feels like a slap in the face, especially to Henry. I mean, any project would be lucky to have such a talented and dedicated series lead. So wasting that possibility and ignoring Henry's perspective is such a shame. I think most people will agree that you should maybe stick to the source material because it's kind of important. But these creative conflicts weren't necessarily the only reason why Henry wanted to leave The Witcher behind. It was thought for a while that Henry had exited the series after recently signing on for a return as Superman. His surprise cameo during the post-credits scene of Black Adam had fans stunned. Despite the DCEU's relatively poor performance, Henry's performance as Superman was well regarded amongst fans. A lot of us felt that he hadn't really had the chance to shine and that the material had let him down. That seems to be becoming a bit of a running theme for poor Henry, doesn't it? Many thought that this return to the Man of Steel would mean that it would be far too difficult for him to keep up with The Witcher's grueling film schedule. The Witcher typically films in various different countries in Europe and makes it difficult for him to pursue the opportunities in Hollywood. Unfortunately, his triumphant return to DC was cut short. Shortly after his big announcement was made, Warner Brothers hired James Gunn to take over their future DC movie project. Gunn decided that a complete overhaul was needed and decided to not bring Henry back as the Man of Tomorrow. The guy really can't catch a break, can he? I mean, it's a real testament to his sheer charisma that Henry can still be so popular even though his major projects have been mostly disappointing for fans. Henry has also signed on to star in Guy Ritchie's upcoming spy thriller, The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, with Isa Gonzalez. No doubt, this will be another great opportunity for him. It's pretty clear that he was looking for greener pastures at the time. Even before it was announced that he was leaving the series, many felt that Henry's schedule was going to be far too packed for him to realistically continue. It makes a lot more sense in hindsight, as these things often do. He's not hurting for job offers, so at least that's something. Henry has a lot of die-hard fans, me included. He just seems like a really nice and talented guy who deserves more than what these projects are providing him. It's also worth mentioning that fan reactions to the series probably played a role in the situation as well. I mean, Henry wasn't the only one who was disappointed that the series seemed to be veering away from its source material. Many fans agreed that the show was deviating too much from the books and was losing a lot of what made it special as a result. Henry's passion for the role clearly shone through the pretty average writing, and there were definitely moments where the show teased us with its potential. But unfortunately, it wasn't enough for a lot of fans who just weren't getting what they were looking for in a Witcher adaptation. The mixed response from fans to certain aspects of the show probably played some role in Henry's decision to leave. That's not to say that it's exclusively the fans' fault, but more that Henry probably felt that his own disappointment in the series was being reflected in the audience response. I mean, he's a fan as well. I think he knew better than anyone that this wasn't going to be a great depiction of the series he knew and loved. You have to respect Henry's commitment to his personal integrity. He clearly wants what's best for the series. Doing the source material justice is more important to him than sticking with a project that he disagrees with creatively. So there you have it. From creative differences to a poor audience response. That is the real reason Henry Cavill was removed from The Witcher.